What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. My name is Nobody James, and as always, I'm here with Nobody John. How have you been this week, Nobody John?
Cold? It's been cold.
It has been cold. It's been cold. I sent you that text. Was that earlier this week or late last week? I don't remember exactly. It was like negative 12 degrees here with a wind chill of negative 30.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're in very different worlds, though. I mean, again, I live up north in the Great White North. You live in the Great White South. I don't know what to say
Oh yeah,
there.
it's white down here. Just a different kind.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So I mean, you're
Uh,
rocking those chilly months. So it's like what 43 degrees.
no, it's current temperature right now. It says that it's 16 degrees outside. Because of the wind chill, it is -2. And oh, I looked at the weather yesterday. Yesterday was 10 degrees, and I looked at the record. 2017 was the hottest day for February the 10th. It was
Hmm.
81 degrees. Coldest 1981. It was -10. But no, it's gonna get cold. Monday night between Sunday and Monday, it's gonna be like -8. So that's without a wind chill. That's just you know the real temperature.
What's the temp there now? You said.
I think it said 16. Let me go back.
Oh, okay. I was getting ready to say I think it's colder there than it is here, but that's not the case.
No, yeah, the wind chill makes it -2.
Yeah, it's
So
not that we don't have that much wind here right now. So it's 9, but it feels like 9. So
oh yeah, no, you go outside if you're not like zipped up the freaking your heat's gonna get stolen from you. So
sure.
Jack Frost is over here blowing all over me, just like.
Yeah, it's weird though, especially because I mean, if that wind's not going here and it snows, it's almost like it provides an insulation. It's just a different
Mm-hmm.
kind of cold. You step outside and it's, in the negative, I don't know, 10 or so, negative 30 with the wind chill, and it just chills you to the bone. It makes your hands hurt, your eyes hurt, etc. So it's just miserable.
And you
But
moved up to
we've
Wisconsin for your wife, right?
yeah, that and the heat.
I was gonna say it's got to be a strong marriage when it's that cold.
I don't
Can
know. I've always preferred like winter to I prefer our aggressively cold winter to the aggressively hot, sticky summers that
it's
we
the
had down
stickiness
there.
that gets you.
Yeah.
Hey, have you ever ran like a winter race?
No, not in this kind of weather
Okay.
specifically. The coldest race I've run is actually the turkey trot when I was there in Joplin with you.
Oh, so you haven't ran out in the cold at all?
I mean, that was what 20 something.
I don't remember.
So
I know my
nothing
eyelids
below
didn't
that.
freeze shut when I closed them.
Yeah, I'm
So
I'm not gonna do that ever. That's not on my list of things to do. I'll tell you that right now.
little, not perverted, but this is maybe inappropriate in some circles or whatever. I ran a race where it was so cold outside,
Hmm.
and it doesn't matter how many layers you had on, the tip of my
Potato.
hurt.
Wow.
I was freaking freezing.
Yeah.
My feet hurt like they cramped up, like the arch. You could feel it right there in the arch. It was dreadfully cold. I had gloves on, I had a hat on, I had everything that I thought I needed on besides like, you know, a snowsuit. And I had parts of me just hurt horrifically bad.
Yeah. And why though? Like, why
It
would
was
you
for
do that?
cancer. It was just a charity run against cancer. It was a run for hope. I can't remember what year it was, like
And you
2014.
guys cured it, right?
Yeah, you get the patient, you take him out back to
Nope.
this large. Okay,
Yeah. That's
life has been cured.
that's
That's a
morbid.
movie that we should talk about and like really go into a deep discussion. It shouldn't be part of what's entertaining you, but The Cure for Wellness, great film. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about the dynamics of it. Like it's a thoughtful film. Anyway, sorry.
That could be your choice for the director I hardly know her segment. I mean, I've never seen that movie. Um,
You've never seen A Cure for Wellness?
no, and I'm trying to remember who directed that. I don't. I was gonna say Guillermo del Toro, but that's not the movie I was initially thinking of. So I definitely want to see it. I know it stars Dane DeHaan, right? The guy from
That one where
what's
he's a
that?
bad guy tearing apart spiders with his magic abilities.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Chronicle.
that was a mess up movie too.
That's a good movie. Gore
Director is
Verbinski.
Gore Verbinski.
Wow, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right. Well, yeah, we'll have to check that. He's done a ton of movies, so he's probably not going to be at the top of our list of the director I hardly know her. And also, he's directed terrible, terrible movies like Pirates of the Caribbean.
You
That's
can
some of
only
the
do
worst
so
crap
much with
I've.
Johnny Depp. So,
He's only directed 22 movies. That's not true. That's not true. A lot of those are shorts. So it's actually not as bad as I would have expected. He's only done something like 10, but a lot of them are terrible. So again, he did Mouse Hunt. He actually directed The Ring. That's cool. Uh, Pirates of the Caribbean, Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3, The Lone Ranger. Those are all awful.
why is who's the main character in there?
Which one?
All of those.
Johnny Depp?
Okay, there you go.
You're not a Johnny Depp fan, besides the
No.
fact that he beats women?
I mean, the only film that I think he really did a really good job of, and it's one of like, it's what is it, Love and Chocolate or Death by Chocolate? That chocolate movie.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
No, not that one.
Are you
Gosh.
talking about Chocolat?
Yeah, chocolate. Chocolate.
I never saw that either. I don't intend on watching that movie ever in my life. It
Why
seems
not?
like
It's a
it's
chick
one that
flick.
I
It's
could
good.
easily miss. It's gonna be a
Remember,
hard pass for me, John.
his last name in German, Depp, is idiot. So just putting that out there.
Johnny Idiot.
Yep.
Well, I guess if the shoe fits, tell me a little bit about your Super Bowl.
What Super Bowl?
That's what I've been saying when people ask me. They're like, "So how was your Super Bowl?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I was there for the halftime show. I didn't even see the game."
I don't think any of the Chiefs players knew that they were playing a game either, from what I saw. Now I might be talking some smack, okay? And there might be some football. You don't know. You're not a pro athlete. You're right. I'm not a pro athlete, you know. But when I show up to work, I show up to work. Okay, I take the German mentality. If I'm there to work, I'm there to work. And I don't know one person to blame besides the whole team, the whole strategy. It was rough. It was rough to watch. It was probably rough to play. But come on. Brady's a pocket boy. And we had some good throws, and there were just yellow flags everywhere. And I was just like, Mardi Gras got canceled. These refs are at the wrong place. They're not throwing confetti. They're throwing flags. But you know what? If you got handsy players, that's what it is. The league needs to start allowing people to beat on people again. Like the offensive line didn't hold, all right? They didn't protect their man. Their man is Patrick Mahomes, okay? And that guy, that kid, he's not as fast as he used to be, and instead they had turf toe, whatever that
I,
is.
I don't believe that. He's not as fast as he used to be. I think that he's working on not being as
He
mobile
had
as
he
he
had
used
his
to.
agility. If he was like a Final Fantasy character or something like that, he's got some kind of crux on him where he's like negative agility. Because that kid
No,
used
no, he's just being trained to not be a runner. The guy can't be out there running like that. He's gonna
he
get
needs to
hurt. I'm
run left, right, and I need somebody to get open. Okay, now he threw some Hail Mary balls, and of course they didn't connect, and that's why we lost. There are actually several factors why we lost, but that's just some of them. Some things that I wanted to see. Um, you know, do I give it to the Buccaneers because they held our offensive line? No, I'm not giving them any credit whatsoever. I'm a negative person. I say our offensive line didn't do their job, didn't protect Patrick, and our receivers didn't get open. So I'm not going to give points to the Buccaneers for their defense. I'm just going to give negative points to our offense. And vice versa. Vice versa. Why didn't our D slam Tom Brady? I know he's tossing that ball like a hotcake because he doesn't want to get touched for whatever reason. And we're not able to break the line, not able to put the fear into the pocket boy. So,
That's the one thing he is pretty good about releasing that ball before he has a
oh
chance to get
yeah, he was
touched.
quick.
So
He was just like boom, 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 and I was
yeah,
just like, oh gosh.
Buccaneers played a good game. It was aggressive. I didn't like to see so much laundry on the field, like you said. I think it was something like 14 flags thrown against the Chiefs, which I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find any statistics. But it has to. It looks to me like it's a Super Bowl record for the number of flags actually thrown during a Super Bowl game. I think all of them. The refs typically have a tendency to just let them play. So if there's a little bit of a push, a pull, or whatever the case, they don't throw it. It has to be aggressive and
I hope you're
egregious.
right though.
And
I hope that was the most flags, thrown in a Super Bowl because you know what? That's what the Chiefs need to be known for, breaking records. Okay.
that's true. Yeah. You know, God forbid Patrick Mahomes win two Super Bowls in a row. But I guess you know what? It's only his third season. It's only his second Super Bowl appearance in 2 years. He's allowed to win some and lose some. I mean, even Brady's lost 3 of the 10 that he's been in.
Yeah, Brady's lost
So
3 of the 10.
what do you want? What do you want from him? So
Victory.
I don't know.
Unrelentless victory.
Unrelentless,
I demand satisfaction.
and you'll get that satisfaction. So
I'm
so
married.
I'm glad that you've gotten that out of your system. I'm glad that the Super Bowl is over. I'm glad that the football season is over because it's kind of
Yeah.
pressure that I personally can't even take. I'm just ready to move on and get a little bit of a break from it and focus on some other aspects of life because the stress is too much. I can't do anything halfway. I go all in. I invest, and then I'm torn apart whenever my team doesn't do so hot. So we're gonna move on for the rest of the year. Well, not the rest of the year, sorry, at least until August, and then we'll get back into it, and I'll get obsessed again, and then hopefully we just have a bad team so I can understand what defeat looks like out of the get-go.
Yeah. I don't even know what the soccer season looks like, honestly.
I don't know anything about soccer, so I'm excited to not hear about any of that.
Well, you can just be a fan of Sporting KC, so
Do they have a professional soccer team?
yeah.
I had no idea.
Kansas City, man, it's the land of sports.
Well, that makes it fun. So I guess we should probably just go ahead and pivot. I actually have a lot of stuff that's been entertaining me. Um,
Good.
how have you been doing as far as your entertainment side of things goes? I mean,
Uh,
if you're limited on what you've done, I'll go into some of mine because I don't want you to spill all the beans first and then just have to sit here and listen to me drone on for the next 25 minutes.
well, okay, so primarily the only thing that I've done that's really fun, but I mean, I've been going back to the gym. But as far as video games, I've been playing a little bit more of that tower defense game, Pixeljunk Monsters, with my wife. Um, it has, as always, when the going gets tough, get into a little bit of those heated arguments about who
The
builds a
wife
tower
gets
where.
to crying.
No, she doesn't. My wife doesn't cry. She just yells at me, and I hold back the tears because I'm a real boy. So, no, that game is just definitely fun. It's a fun game. It can definitely get a little heated sometimes. Um, but you know what? We're married, so if anything's gonna lead to divorce, it's gonna be this.
The thing about Pixel Junk, and I think this is a lot of the tower defense games, because I personally, we've talked about this before. I'm a huge fan of tower defense in general, and I really get into like the Kingdom Rush that is
Well,
on
it's a pretty good game.
mobile, and I've played
Everything.
all of them. Is it like on PC and stuff as
It's
well?
on PC. I actually play it on PC through Steam. I do not play it on mobile.
Gotcha. I've only ever played it on mobile, but I really get into it. But the problem that I have with it, and it's especially egregious in Pixel Junk, is it's definitely a game of trial and error because you'll be playing a perfect game until wave 18, and then they send something at you, and you're like, oh, I have to tear down all my towers, and I have to rebuild, I don't know, arrow towers or whatever the case is, and you won't know that that's coming until the game time starts, or they start digging, creating whatever different paths out of the woods, and you just never know that that's going to come, which is good because it creates a little bit of replayability and a little bit of a challenge. But again, me being kind of a perfectionist, I don't want to lose a single creature. If I lose whatever you call them,
The chibis or
tiki,
whatever they call us. Yeah,
yeah,
little tiki
a tiki
babies.
baby,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
then
chibs.
I lose one, I'm just starting over.
Yeah, no,
So
that's what Madison and I do. And the thing is, like, you can have your
let's
setup.
be clear, you do, and Madison's like, I just want to beat the level, John. If we have one left, I'm fine with it.
No, we're in cahoots on this one. We're in agreement.
Mhm.
We can't lose one. But yeah, no, you're definitely right. You can plan and you can have it set up. You've got your air cover. You know what path they're taking, and either oh they're coming from a different way, and you're like sack of shit, or you're not prepared for like the giant rock golems coming through, and then it puts fire on them in the second one and makes them faster.
Mhm.
You don't have any ice towers to slow them down. And like, so you don't think of these strategic places where you could put an ice tower instead of XYZ to slow down the front guy. Because you slow down the front guy, it doesn't matter if everybody behind him in the chain has fire. You're only as slow as the guy that's taking the lead.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. That can be frustrating. And Madison and I have been stuck on a level for the last 2 days. We've replayed it. I was playing it actually right before we had to do this podcast. I was playing that game with my wife. So it's a struggle. Struggle's real, but you got to restart because you need that perfect score. I need my rainbow.
I definitely understand. Like I said, I fall into that same category. But sadly, I don't play any games with my wife. But I do play. Um,
Games with me.
I guess the game I'll jump into. I don't want to talk about that one just because I want to play through more of it. We can mention we're playing Borderlands 3, but I don't want to jump into our
Not
thoughts
on
and
Epic. We're
feelings.
playing on Steam
I just
because we're not
I don't
Asian.
necessarily want to have that conversation because I don't want to talk about it for 5 weeks in a row. You
Oh,
know.
that's
So we'll
fine. You know, I understand. Yeah.
we'll save it. In my opinion, we'll save that for just a little bit, and we'll come back to it in the future. But I've played a couple of games. I already talked about it last week, so I won't go into it. But Cyber Shadow, I beat it. I'm actually working my way through a second playthrough, and I'm still going to do an independent review of that. And I have thoughts that I'll share at a later date. But for the time being, I'm going to talk about a little demo that I played, Resident Evil 8, the Maiden demo.
You excited?
No, not at all.
Hmm.
Um, I'll give just a little bit of a backstory. I'm a huge, huge Resident Evil fan, harkening all the way back to I think the first Resident Evil I ever played was actually Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation 1, and the reason is I didn't have a PlayStation until much later in the generation life cycle. I went to a friend's house. They had rented it, so we played through it, and it kind of blew my mind. And that's the first game I played in the series. And then I got into it really, really hardcore whenever it came out on um, Dreamcast and then GameCube. So I played, I think the next one I played was Code Veronica, Resident Evil Code Veronica, and then I got the GameCube and I played Resident Evil Remake, and then I played Resident Evil Zero, and so on and so on and so on. And it's just spiraled from there. At this point, I played essentially every mainline entry, including, like I said, Zero, Code Veronica. The few I haven't played are like the Outbreak series and stuff like that that just didn't get good reviews, or the light gun versions. That's just not my speed. And then I just recently started playing Resident Evil 7 because they transitioned. I don't know how you are on the Resident Evil spectrum, but if I were to have to like go through and give my rating, and this is with hindsight blinders on, I'll just start with remake. Resident Evil 1 remake, I would have to give it a Gaga on our scale. If I went to Resident Evil 2 and the Resident Evil 2 remake, I would have to say Gaga. Like it's just some of my favorite series ever. Resident Evil 3, I would say it's good. Resident Evil Code Veronica, again with my hindsight blinders on, I'd say I'm Gaga. Um, Resident Evil 4, Gaga. Resident Evil 5, I loved it. So I would say it's at least great, but I understand some of the complaints and problems because it gets really over the top with Chris Redfield, one of the main characters, punching a boulder, like a giant, like size of a house boulder, until he breaks and moves it, so that way he can kill the final boss or whatever. Spoilers. So it's real stupid, but it's a really, really, really good game. Well paced, a little more action focused, and then you get into Resident Evil 6 that I never beat, but it was garbage. So it just transitioned very. They tried to cram too much into one. Then you take a hard transition into Resident Evil 7, and you're done with zombies or the Los Plagas or whatever it was throughout 4, 5, and 6, and now you're dealing with uh, a mutated family that is able to regenerate, and they just kind of follow and lurk. And I didn't care. Like I just instantly was like, well, I don't know anybody in this universe, and it's Resident Evil 7. right? We're starting out kind of brand new. We're in a setting that is beautiful, like beautifully detailed, but not anywhere that I'm familiar with, so I don't care. We're in first person, so you can't even get to know your protagonist, so I don't care. Um, so I just checked out. Then they released this Resident Evil 8 demo, and I was talking to our buddy Steven, and he was like, "Hey, you need to play that and let me know because it was exclusive to the PS5." So I was like, "I'm going to play it right now." So I logged in, I downloaded it, played it. Overall, it took 10 minutes to beat the demo, and it's actually apparently not part of the main game. It's just its own standalone little piece to kind of introduce setting and world.
Hmm.
And the world's beautiful, in my opinion. It's not scary. It's formulaic. It's boring. It's just not exciting. And this demo specifically, it's a no combat demo. So I understand that that's probably why it's boring, but there's a couple of puzzles and they're super basic. Like you walk through the rooms, you walk into a dining hall, you find a cup, you look in it, there's a ring, you like
Put the
examine the
ring
ring.
on. Next thing you know, you are the Lord of Mordor.
Jesus.
I'm
That
sorry. One ring to rule them
yeah.
all.
Or you
Schmeagle
t-
comes out of the out of
and,
nowhere like,
and then he eats you. And
and
then
then
he
he
eats you.
bites
No,
you.
and then you disassemble the ring and you use it to open this other door, and then when you open that door, the main villain pops in, and like I said, the villains, it's you've probably seen her all over the internet because people are like hot and bothered about her because she's a super tall
Give
lady.
me a giant vampire.
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't see it. I just don't like I'm not finding them threatening. I don't find them scary. I don't find this world scary. I find
Hey,
it
hold
again.
up. Did you ever play wasn't there like a VR Resident Evil?
Yeah, it's 7. 7 is VR as well. And no, I have no intention of playing it in VR because I'll flat out tell you, I'm too much of a scaredy cat to do that. I love scary games and I love them to scare me, but there are certain settings and instances I don't need that much immersion. Like I don't need to be hating the
Have you ever played a
experience.
game where like your heart's beating fast and you have to like put it down? Like you're like that angst about it. Like the fear has got you. You're like, I can't do this right now. I'll have to continue this later.
And I'm blanking on the name of it. Maybe you'll know. No, here it is. N64 Star Wars Shadow of the Empire. Did you ever play that?
Not Shadow of the Empire now.
I believe that's what it's called. I used to be terrified, and I still am personally. I'm scared of like big open bodies of water just because, things can come at you from any direction, and it's kind of creepy to me that a shark can just come up and take a bite, or those giant squids can just drag you down. It's crazy. I know it's silly, but even pools and stuff, it kind of freaks me out. But Shadow of the Empire, there's a level where you're in the sewers, and then it ends with you having to like completely submerge, and you go down and there's this giant tentacled monster, and that used to scare the crap out of me. So that, I mean, I like put that game away, which is so crazy because it's just it's a Star Wars game, but it scared me to no end. But otherwise, no, not really. Like the that's what I like about the Resident Evil games specifically is they're scary. They're a little bit more jump scare focused. There's some creepy elements, especially in Resident Evil Remake. But overall, it's just setting, and then the sense of reward whenever you solve a puzzle and you get to move forward in the level, or you kill a big bad because it does require a lot of planning, a lot of ammo, certain kinds of guns, and things like that. But so far, like I said, I'm gonna try to barrel through Resident Evil 7. I'm using a guide just to try to get through it quickly because I'm just
Hmm.
gonna flat out tell you I put like 2 or 3 hours into it. I don't like what it's doing. It's it's not scary. It's boring. It's kind of stupid. But then again, if I were to put a VR helmet on, yes, I completely understand. It would probably genuinely terrify me because you're immersed in that world. But I also get VR sickness if I'm actively walking around. I like the stabilized Beat Sabers and stuff like that.
We need to get you
So
a high resolution headset with plenty of frames.
that's a hard pass. I don't know.
So
I've done the VR
here's the
thing.
deal. You like scary games? You need to play Aliens. Um,
Isolation.
oh yeah.
I started it, thought it was terrible. I hated it. I just thought
How?
it's slow, it's plodding. It's the same. This is the thing I hate. Okay? This is what I hate. I don't like being incapable in a video game. You know, Dead Space is perfect because it plays that it's high like high octane, right? There's a lot of combat, but you're a character that is not a military, you know, military personnel. They are what is he? He's a maintenance worker, and he's got maintenance weapons or maintenance tools that end up being utilized as weapons. And so you feel that sense of dread, but at the same time, you have the tools to complete the level. I don't like just walking around with my hands tied behind my back, like
You don't. You pick up the
Outlast.
wrench and you beat some crooks over the head with it. Take their guns. Use that against the
But
robots.
you don't kill the alien. He's always there.
Yeah.
So you know that game legitimately tracks um, real life sounds. So if you're wearing a headset and you talk or something while you're hiding from the alien, he tracks where you are.
Yeah.
Which in theory, yeah, that's impressive, neat, scary, whatever. But but legitimately fuck that shit. It I don't need that in my life. And it's not because it's scary, it's because it's obnoxious. I'm
I,
playing
I
a
mean, like,
video game. If I want to get murdered, I'll just go spend a couple nights at a prison
listen, Skid Row, LA.
because it's
No,
that easy.
it's just one of those things where it's like it's very immersive, and those are those games. Okay, so like yes, I like the object of the game. I don't think you're supposed to actually engage those like average Joe robot guys, right? I am a run and gun type of dude. Now I know how to hide and I know how to solve puzzles, and that's what I really do enjoy about that game is killing the Joes, killing the gangsters or the people that are left over, finding the puzzles. Yeah, I don't like to be like I played Amnesia. That game is hard, too hard for me, too scary for me. I can't deal with it. I get a little kick
Same
out.
idea. Same idea.
It is
You
a
don't you
survival
could knock
horror.
it
It
you
is
could
it is
knock
that.
it down or push it back, but ultimately you're
I don't like the
as
going
weak.
insane portion of that game. Like the constant ticking away. That's what I also don't like about uh, Don't Starve Together. The constant tick, the
Yeah, I never
cold
played
taking
that one,
away
yeah.
at you, you going insane. Yeah, it's weird. The Alien one, I've had to put it away before because it got too amped up because the Alien was right on my my tail, what have you.
Did you ever beat that game?
Alien Isolation? No, no. I'm bad about
Yeah.
that. I'm like move on to stuff. I'll go back
Well,
to it though, but like
tell me about it. I'm the same way.
I'll play it
I
again.
am the same way.
There's another scary
I
game that I haven't beaten either because I was just like, this is sad.
you know a great scary game, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. I've been kind of itching to get back and play it. Is uh, The Evil Within 2. That
Yeah.
that is that is in the same vein of like the early Resident Evil games. I just like being capable. It's got a or Alan Wake. That's a great scary game. Or Fear 2, or Fear 3.
What was that? What was that one game where you're like a gangster or whatever? It was on the PlayStation 3,
Okay.
and you get the demon that possess you or something, or you get demon blood or something like that, and you have like demonic powers, and you
The
get guns.
Darkness.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, where you can like you have the little tentacle eel
Yeah, yeah.
guys. Yeah,
That was
that was called
weird.
Darkness and Darkness 2. It's not really a scary game, it's more just
No,
action
it's
because
more.
that's actually a comic series.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, those were both pretty fun games. But I'm not asking to be over even Silent Hill, you're not overpowered, but you are finding new weapons. It's eerie, creepy, it's scary. It's like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the Silent Hill
You don't want
like
to be helpless.
where I don't. It's exactly right. It's a game. Like I don't want to just. It's a walking simulator, but things jump out and scare you. And it's like Slender Man. You know, you play a Slender Man game, and ultimately it's scary. But all you're doing is wandering around the fields, looking for pieces of paper stapled to trees, and then randomly you might happen to run into something that kills you, and you have to start all over. That's
You
just
throw
not fun to
rocks
me.
at it.
You can't throw rocks at it. It's not
I'm
Call of Duty.
well. I'm just.
You're not in a gulag.
What I'm just saying, like there's all these things where you can't kill it, and I don't understand. Like, or maybe we could just complain about that at some other time. I was just gonna go on a rant. Like, you have one xenomorph on that entire space station, and I've got a gun, and I've got a
Yeah,
wrench.
you should
I'm
be able to figure it out, huh?
Yeah, no, I might die in the process of whacking that alien, or
But at
get
least you
impaled by
die
its tail.
standing your ground.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's airlocks. Can I jettison that sucker outside? Let him crawl around on the outside of the base? I don't know. Where there's a will,
I don't
there's a
know.
way.
I would assume so, but I have played one other game. It's in a completely different vein. Um, it won't take me very long. I'll just briefly tap into it. It's called Habroxia 2, which it is a PlayStation 4. Actually, it's kind of all over the place. I got it pulled up here. It is on PC, PlayStation Vita, Switch, and Xbox One. Um, Also PlayStation 4. Oh yeah, okay, and I got it on the PS5, so it's just backwards compatible. It's a very simple, basic side-scrolling shooter, 8-bit, again, 16-bit kind of idea. I've only played through 3 or so levels. It's kind of a bullet hell defender style side-scrolling shooting, like ship shooting game. So you're um, flying through, picking up cash to be able to level up your ship. It's actually developed by Lilimo Games, which I'm not sure if you know, like the Kind of Funny or Greg Miller, Colin Moriarty from IGN back in the day. They are actually it, Colin Moriarty owns a piece of Lilimo Games, so it's actually he does the writing for these games. So if anybody out there, the 6 or 7 people that watch our show, know anything about this, it's his most recent game, and he did do the writing for it. Overall, it's very competent, and I feel like the hit detection, if I were to give a couple of complaints about it, um, the hit detection is just a little bit off. It seems like I can get as low to the ground and even slam into the ground in some capacity, and it doesn't do any harm. But if you hit the top of the map, it does do harm to your ship. You can kind of skate through some of the bullets. It's just not perfect, and then so it's unrelenting, and then it's holding back in weird places, and it just doesn't. I don't know. It creates frustrating moments where you feel like a badass because you're not getting hit, but you're like, oh, that one hit me. Well, it didn't register that it did. And then the next mission, you're like, just getting just slammed apart. And you're like, what is going on? Like, why is that one counting when it didn't the last time? Um, Interesting sprite like designs, nice varied maps, secret passageways. It's kind of throwing everything but the kitchen sink into this style of game, which I'm finding this kind of game specifically is like Cyber Shadows specifically. It's kind of my bread and butter. I'm not having to pay attention to a lot of story. I don't have to invest for long sessions. I can play it while I'm, you know, half paying attention. I can put a record on and I can just chill. So, like I said, I haven't beat the game, but I'm willing to just throw a rating out there because, as far as I'm concerned, I'm probably just going to play it in passing. $10. I'd say it's good. I don't think it's anything better or worse than that, but I think it's worth $10. So I think that they did a good job of
Pricing
capturing that
themselves.
old yeah, pricing the sell because that's what I did is I got on there and I was like, oh, if it's affordable, I'll check it out. And I was like, $10, that's perfect. If it would have been 20, I wouldn't have bought it. If it would
Yeah.
have been, 15, I probably would have dragged my feet and waited for a sale. So worth checking out. Not worth running out and you know,
Gotta have it.
I don't. Yeah, exactly,
Sandy,
and
Santa
buying day
Claus.
one. So that's that. Do you have anything specifically that has been entertaining you outside of the realm of our director I hardly know her series?
No, honestly, really haven't. Not anything that's memorable. New season, been trying to smash through with the old wifo is Disenchanted. Love it. It's on Netflix. Um, it's got the main characters, Lucy. You've got Elfo. It's just they're great. They're great characters. Have you not seen that show?
I don't even know what this is.
Disenchanted. Check
Never
it
heard
out
of
on
it.
Netflix. It's funny. It's funny. You can smash a couple episodes. It's some funny stuff. I don't know. It feels the cartoon stuff is almost like The
Oh,
Simpsons.
okay, okay. It's okay. I know exactly what this is. This is the creators of it's partially The Simpsons and Futurama
Yeah, Futurama for sure. You can see a lot
because
of
it's
that
a
in there.
yeah very Futurama setting. I watched the first episode or two, Disenchantment.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah, I call it
Yeah.
Disenchanted. My bad.
Which I still wouldn't have known it, but I don't know. I watched the first episode or two, and it didn't
Grab you.
it didn't yeah it didn't grab me in the same sense that like Futurama just doesn't have a hook. Like for me, it didn't grab my it didn't hook me. I liked The Simpsons a lot when I was a kid, but anyway, it's probably I think I would be
Give it a go.
interested in checking it out.
Just you got to put on a episode, then go do something else. Get an
Is
episode.
it pretty narrative based? Are they pretty good about like maintaining a narrative and moving forward, or is it more just, you
So
know,
yes,
it's all
and
individual?
that progresses. There are two major, like season two. There's a pretty major plot that's going under, like it's happening, nefarious plot, and then that sort of feeds into season three. But then it turns out there's a whole different thing that's going on, and so there are two major plot lines. One is with Princess Diabini's mother, who's a stone
Hmm.
statue in season one, and then the other one has to do with Steam World and like some cult that
Okay.
is part of it.
That
So
actually makes me more interested in it, knowing that there's like a story propelling it forward.
yeah,
And
and there's some
it's only three seasons, so
other story going on in there, but they're like side stories, but they still contribute to the main arc of these characters of Dreamland.
well, that's pretty cool. It's definitely worth checking out, and I'll give it another shot because I'll admit I'm the kind of person when I start a new show, it needs to hook me right away, and if it doesn't, then I have a real hard time investing. Movies I can give a little bit more leniency because if it's a 2 hour movie and it doesn't hook me until hour one ends, then I'm like, there's only one more hour to invest in this. I might as well make it.
Gotcha.
Um, Whereas a TV show, it's like, oh, there's 24 more episodes. I'm gonna chew my own eyeballs.
Speaking of TV
Uh-oh.
series and stuff like that, are they making a season two of Watchmen?
As far as I know, no.
Because I've been burning through that thing, and I'm just like, oh, this isn't too bad.
Hold on, you're just starting Watchmen?
Yeah, I'm on episode 8.
Okay. That show, we need to talk. I'll have to rewatch it if
Talk
we're going to
about
talk about that. That movie or that show is.
I'll
We'll talk about it.
Yeah,
We'll talk about it later.
it's changing.
That
The
show,
story's
woo,
changing.
yeah, it goes places. I love it. But we'll go into that another
Okay.
time because, as far as I know, it's going to be a one-off, a one and done kind of situation, and I kind of hope that it is
That's all
because
right. Yeah, you just keep it gold. Don't try to dilute
because
it.
I feel the same way about the graphic novel. I feel the same way about the movie. I love the Watchmen movie, and maybe that's one we can do another time, like a Zack Snyder director. I hardly know her, because I think he has some really great films. Which I guess this is a good opportunity to springboard into our topic of conversation in 2 seconds here. But I like his visual touches. I don't necessarily like his stories,
Hmm.
like which we can go into that another time. But like I said, we'll springboard off of that into our director. I hardly know her.
Okay.
Topic of conversation: Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Did you actually get to watch this movie, John?
Yeah, no, and I've seen it before. And again, and you're gonna hate me for this, but I actually am not a fan of this film.
I don't have a problem with that. What's let me give just a real quick breakdown, and I'm just working off IMDb here. It was, and I'm not going to read it. I'm going to give my own breakdown because I don't like to read their
Take
synopsis.
notes. Yeah. No, you're fine.
So I just want to say it was put out by uh, I'm sorry, directed by Edgar Wright, and it was made in 2010. Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and it stars Michael Cera. Anna Kendrick has a small part in it. Aubrey Plaza has a small part in it. Jason Schwartzman has a small part. It's actually crazy the amount of talent that's involved in this movie. I think it's uh, Kieran Culkin, which is one of the Macaulay Culkin's brothers, has a part in it, and I'm trying to think of some of the others. I mean, it's wild. Chris Evans, I think his name is the guy that plays Captain America, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Has a role in the movie, and it just goes on and on and on. So it's just fantastic. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who plays Ramona, the main female in the film. I almost forgot to even mention her. But great diverse cast in my opinion. But it's a story about the titular character, Scott Pilgrim, and how he has engaged in a relationship with a high school girl by the name of Knives, and then the girl of his dreams comes into his life, and he is tasked with the struggle of picking and choosing the girl of his dreams or the girl that he's in some capacity committed to, for better or worse, I guess you might potentially say. And then he has to defeat the seven evil exes of Ramona Flowers. And witty antics ensue. Would you agree with that basic overarching
Yeah, I believe
synopsis of the
so.
film?
Yeah.
So, with that being said, again, this is the series that we've been doing. The director, I hardly know her. We first did Shaun of the Dead, and then we did Hot Fuzz. And this is only the third movie, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And we only have two more in our series, which is End of the World, or
The
The
World's End.
World's End. I keep screwing it up. And then Baby Driver.
Yep.
So, jumping into Scott Pilgrim versus the World, when did you see this for the first time? Did you see it in theaters, or was it?
No, I didn't see it in theaters. I think I rented it because people talked about it, talked it up, and so I watched it with a group of people. They thoroughly enjoyed it. I was just like, well, it was a film. It's not a bad film. I think overall it's a good film. It just wasn't for me.
Sure.
Like I get the witty banter. I do like Michael Cera and his acting, his personality. Um, I don't know. I think it's like the whole video game pop up, power up kind of thing. There's been
Hmm.
other films that have done that, and I think even Deadpool they did it in a couple of scenes or whatever. I find that a major turnoff for whatever reason. It like I'm just like ugh. And so this film has a lot of that, and so I find myself doing that often. I do think it's kind of cool the playful like vegan power and stuff like that. I kind of find that funny, but I don't. It's not a film that I can take too seriously, but it's not something that I'm laughing at. So it kind of falls in this like numb zone for me, just like
Sure.
eh.
So this film for me, if I give my overall thoughts in just one word, I think it is a great film.
Oh,
So
okay.
if I were to rate it on our scale, I'm going to say that it's great because I think its parts are greater than the overall sum. And this conversation I think is just going to be kind of all over the place
Hmm.
because my thoughts on the movie are much like the movie itself, all over the place. I think that it's I'll stick with the negatives to kind of ride your train first. I think that it's a very shallow plot, and I think that the way that they introduce some of the mechanics and some of the thoughts and the themes are haphazardly thrown into place. Like for instance, it takes place in a semi-realistic world up until the first fight with one of Ramona's evil exes. Um, Actually, I have his name right there, Matthew Patel. So whenever he comes, they're in the Battle of the Bands in the first series, or their first battle,
Yeah.
and one of Ramona's evil exes comes bursting through the ceiling, and all of a sudden he's flying, throwing fireballs, summoning evil demon girls or whatever the case is, and he's dancing and he's doing head bobs and stuff, and I think it's fun. But then you have Scott Pilgrim literally flying through the air, punching him. They're doing like crazy mixed martial arts and all this kind of stuff. It's just not set up well. So I didn't understand even when I watched the movie for the first time. And I feel the same way now, having seen it probably five times or so at this point. Because if you asked me 3 years ago, my top 10 favorite movies of all time, I think I probably would have included this one because of its stylist, like his stylings, and the fact that I generally am just a huge Edgar Wright fan. And it's this movie oozes with style, and it's just missing in the substance category,
You know
in
how I
my
think I would have liked this film as a
opinion.
short miniseries, and each
Sure.
boyfriend is like the end
No,
of it.
no,
Not
that
X.
that's yes, it's a running joke in the movie, and I didn't get that until this watch, where they're like every time he says seven evil boyfriends, they're like exes,
Yeah.
because there's a girl in the mix.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of funny joke. Like I didn't notice it. So
Yeah. So
anyway,
like I think every one of those should have been the end of an episode. It would have built up a little bit more character development. It would
I
have
agree
kept
completely.
the humor or style of the scene, and it could change
Hmm.
every episode because you start fresh instead of what
Yep.
I figure just leaping and bounding from wham bam X to X to X with different
Which you
styles.
nailed it. You nailed it. I think that would have been really, really cool if it had been a 30-minute episode for each X, and it was introducing them and then that style of film or game, because this movie takes a lot of um, it has a lot of Easter eggs into video games,
Okay.
from musical soundtracks to collecting one ups to just every facet. I mean, it's just oozing game charm, which is awesome. The shirts they wear, the name of the band, Sex Bomb and stuff like that. Uh, so I agree with you completely. I think that would have been awesome, and that's actually one of my biggest critiques of the movie is it feels incredibly rushed at the end. Pretty much after I think it was Evil X number 4, which is actually the woman that he ends up touching her the back of her knee and causing her to come to death, which I thought's kind of crazy. Um,
It
but whenever they
happens.
the twins, which I'll say a negative about that's a round 2, I think it is, of Battle of the Bands, and the what is it, the Kiriagi twins or whatever the case is.
I don't remember
Now,
their names.
this is one of the reasons I love this movie so much, and I'm going to get into this in more detail here in just a moment. But I'm a big music fan, so I listen to all kinds of music. So whenever you introduce any alternative or indie music into the mix, I'm gonna instantly fall in love with it. And they did a really great job of that up until that twins fight, where the twins are doing jack shit. They're just standing up there and they press a key on a keyboard, and all of a sudden dragons come out of their speakers. That's not music. And you got Scott Pilgrim, the Sex Bombs over there playing, and they summon a big ape, which I think is cool and visually exciting. But I'd rather it just have been a more dynamic musical like battle. Even
Yeah.
the even the vegan guy where they have a bass battle. That's a really fun scene, and they're riffing on their basses, and it sounds awesome, in my opinion. So
So you wanted more of a music dynamic.
I really liked all the music dynamic up until, like I said, the twins boss battle. I thought that was kind of bland. Who's your favorite Evil X in the mix, if you had to pick one?
I don't have one. If I had to pick one, none.
Mine's going to be the girl. I think that she's pretty awesome. I like that fight scene especially because it's the most diverse. You have Ramona fighting her with the giant hammer, then you have her like puppeteering Scott Pilgrim to actually fight her in general, and then up until the actual point where she gets killed, because I think that's overall just kind of a stupid scene. Um, but the humor is fantastic. I love the scene where Knives comes to the house and is like, hey, what's this guy's name? Hey, Wallace, is Scott here? And you see him like run away, and then he's like, no, he just left, and you see him dive out the window, and then he's like, yeah, you just missed him, and then he pops back up and grabs his coat, and then you see him walk behind her. It's just really quick and clever. It's got the quick cuts. It's if if they had just tightened up a few things, I think that this movie could have been amazing. But I completely understand where you're coming from. So um, I could go on about the movie, but for the sake of conversation, the sake of time, if you had to review it, if you had to score it, what do
So
you
I put
think?
I put it as good. Okay. I feel like it
You don't have
deserves.
to.
Well, I feel like it. Okay, so I have mixed feelings about it. I do want to put it at good. Okay, it's not necessarily gauche or garbage. It's a good film if you take each scene and put it separately. Overall, I have to agree with you. It seems a little rushed, especially the ending. I'm just like, where did this come from? Why didn't we get more of this? And I think maybe they took too long on a couple of the developments for their film. And I think that I don't know. I didn't look into it because I didn't care enough to be like, did they have to make cuts for production? They're like, no, this film can only be this long. You've got to cut some material out, and they did that. I don't know. Is there an extended cut? Is it worth more than what we're seeing right now? I just really wish that there had been a little bit more character development because I do like the wit. It just feels like it's not. It lost me on all the just jumping around from scene to scene to scene. And
Style over substance, and that style is not necessarily your bag.
yeah,
If I'm
that style is just definitely not my bag. I do appreciate some of it when it's called for, but yeah, it just leaves me just like kind of like, So
For me, again, I'm going to say it's. I think it's personally it's great. I love the style. I love the humor. I love the quick. I mean, it's joke after joke after joke after joke, and if you don't keep up and you watch it for a third, fourth, fifth time, whatever, you're going to catch something you didn't see before. I again, not to rehash. I think it's a little too shallow, and I hate the ending in the sense that the fight with Gideon, and I just don't love the way that it concludes. I do like the joke that he has to fight his himself, and then it cuts away, and then they're just walking out, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he's a pretty nice guy." I thought that was a funny little joke. But one of the things I hate most in movies, and I think I've expressed this on our podcast before, is I hate
it's
whenever.
foreshadowing that they're gonna be exes.
That's true. That's yeah. But I hate when it shows the same thing again. So like when he has to like he gets killed and then he comes back and it shows the same thing just working out a little differently. That just kind of gets under my skin. I just
You gotta
that's kind of
rewatch
all
that whole thing.
yeah, it's always kind of boring to me. No matter what. Even up until the point where which I don't even know if you've watched the last um Avengers Endgame. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
So like how they have to go back in time and they're doing the same thing but it's in a different way. Even that to me was kind of like, oh, okay, now let's just get through this. This isn't exciting. And now having rewatched it, I appreciate it more, but I don't like that kind of stuff. So,
I wonder if
like I
I
said,
if I missed something about that film because I know that they had to go find Thanos and he was like sitting there all alone. Spoilers, by the way, and they just kill him
yep.
and accomplish
What do you,
nothing.
what did you mean you missed
Was
something?
that it? Was that the whole film?
That was the beginning. That was the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, I guess I missed something then.
Like the entire second 2 hours, 2.5 hours of that movie.
Well, it wasn't memorable. Okay, I don't know. I don't
we we
remember it. I
we
guess.
can't even get into that. We're gonna have to do a director I hardly know her, but cover the Marvel universe. But that's 25 movies.
I don't know. You
It's
killed
quite the
Thanos. That's all you need,
it's
right?
quite the commitment there. So, well, let me knock some of these out real quick. I promised last week that I would talk about um, the Foo Fighters. I just want to go into a little bit of the music, so I'll do a small segment here real quickly, covering the music that I've been listening to. Um, I've listened to a lot of music this week. Probably like 10 new albums that I hadn't listened to before. Um, a lot of them from 2021, and then half of it or so from 2020 that I had missed. But to start out, I'm just going to run through Foo Fighters Medicine at Midnight is the newest album that they have come out. It's their 10th studio album, and it released last Friday, which would have been whatever date that was, 2000 or 2000, February 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, something like that.
Fifth on Friday. Yeah.
That's right, 5th. So I don't know how you feel. I think you're not a big straight up rock kind of person, but obviously I say straight up rock in the you like the Rob Zombies, the Marilyn Manson, maybe here and there. The
Yeah.
the
Disturbed for sure.
yeah, a
Skillet,
little
Linkin
electric.
Park.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Um,
Not a Foo Fighter guy though.
yeah, me either for the most part. Although I've listened to their entire discography, but yet I think that they are a better singles band than an album band, and I think this album exemplifies exactly why I think that. I think they start out with a bang, and I don't have their track list sitting in front of me, but I could probably get it really quickly. Yep, here it is. It starts out with a bang, "Making Fire," which is a song that just opens up with just good old fashioned hard. I say hardcore, good old fashioned rock. It harkens back to the days of the '80s and the '90s, maybe even the '70s a bit. Just a good old repeatable rock song, and then it kind of jumps into the new age slower burn shame shame, and as it goes for me it kind of falls apart. So I'm like the song kicked off, I'm sorry, the album kicked off with Making Fire, and I'm like, man, this is amazing, this is their best album yet. And then Shame Shame comes around, I'm like, okay, works in the framework of this album. And then it was just an immediate drop off, and I probably listened to this album 3 times over this last week. It's only 36 minutes long, so you can blaze right through it. But outside of those first two songs, there's nothing. in it that makes me go, I'm going to listen to this again. So I've changed up the way I'm going to review music just because I know I'm the music guy and you're not. So we have our garbage, gauche, good, great, gaga rating scale.
Hmm.
I'm doing just a 1, 2, and a 3, which is I'll either not return to it, there is enough to make me come back, or I love it. So I'll listen to it, put it in my repertoire, right?
Okay.
And for this record specifically, I'm going to put it in the there's enough to keep me coming back because those first two songs are good enough for me to throw it on my Spotify playlist. I actually start it, put it on a random playlist. Not going to run to it.
Why don't you just put those two songs and then dump the rest of the album?
That's exactly the scenario, which I'm not a big fan of doing that kind of stuff unless it's specific to, like I said, a workout trend or something like that. I like appreciating an album in its entirety. But hey, that's just me. It is what it is, and that's where Foo Fighters falls in this sense. I'm giving it a 2 just on the moral or the laurels of those two of the 9 songs. So if you do the math on that, it's fallen a little bit below a 33%, but it's still enough to say, hey, I'm going to come back and listen to that again. The next one, I have two other albums I want to talk about. One I'm going to dog shit on, and one that I'm in love with. I'll go to the dog shit side. Hayley Williams, which you don't know the name, but you
Nope.
probably know the name of the band Paramore.
Yeah.
So I am a fan of Paramore. I'm not in love with Paramore. I have seen them, I think, live 2 times because they happen to be accompanying other bands or whatever the case may be. Hayley Williams, I like more than the band Paramore, and I mean that in the sense that I like her vocals, I like her style, I like her attitude, and I like her solo album that came out last year, which was Petals for Armor. I don't think I talked about it on the podcast, but it was a very good record. I was surprised by it. It's a very different style than Paramore in that pop punk setting. Um, but she released her second effort as a solo artist, and it's Flowers for Vases. The positive I'll give on this is that she wrote, sings, and plays all the instruments for each and every song on this album. So I will give her that. With that being said, I have no other props to give. There's not one song on this entire album that's good, in my opinion.
Hmm.
It's a very emotional and very touching album for her, I'm sure. But as it stands as a whole, is 100% a bore, snooze fest, missable, skippable, awful, awful, awful attempt. That's just me. I'm giving it a 1. I'll never, ever, ever try to listen to this garbage again. That's just me. Which is
Say
crazy.
that 10 years from now,
Nope. It'll never
you'll
cross my
say,
desk. Not a single song stuck out to me. It was a chore. It was like a 46-minute album, which is too long.
why do you do that
Um,
to yourself? Why do you like, oh, I had to go through the whole thing?
because I'm the kind I like what do you do, man? You find a song on there that you're like, wow, this is amazing. I hate that I missed this. There's so much music that exists out there that for me, I'm like, if I can find that one song that's great, then I'm happy that I found it. And I love it. I'm a big music guy. The last one that I'm going to go over real quickly is Phoebe Bridgers, and I'm sure you've never heard of her. She has, I think, 3 albums in total at this point. Um, she's actually only 26 years old. She's kind of a singer-songwriter. She does a little bit more of the indie pop, kind of a down home, slow feel. And I would compare this to Hayley Williams' Flowers for Vases, but I would say that where that album failed, this album uh, succeeds. And it's like I said, very slow, methodical. It has the single. That's the thing. There's only 2 songs on this entire album out of like 10 songs that are that breathe any specific life into it, which is actually kind of crazy because she was just on SNL and she performed those 2 songs that have life on SNL. It's Kyoto and then I Know the End. And it's actually kind of crazy because the last song in the album is kind of a crescendo where the whole band like just goes crazy. They're just really banging on their instruments, just strumming out, going crazy and having a good time. And even she's like up front, just screaming and having a good time. And it just feels like an explosion of this pent up aggression and rage that they've held inside for this 9 tracks that preceded. Um, I give this one a 3 out of 3. I'm going to come back to it a lot as a direct mirror to the Hayley Williams album, the Flowers for Vases. It's got that hook, and it just makes me want to keep going. It
Hmm.
makes me want to keep jumping back into it. I think I've listened to it 4 times. I actually had to go out. Sorry. Let's see if I can
Oh, did you
find
pick
it.
up your disc?
I had to run out and bear with me. Had to run out and pick it up on vinyl. So yeah, there's 11 songs on it overall. I've listened to the record 1 time so far. Oh, I put one in there. It was Postal Service. That's whoops. Um, it stuck inside.
You got gypped.
No, that was definitely it was just it ate it whenever I put it in its cabinet. That's probably why I was like categorizing my records, and I'm like, I'm missing one. Where'd it go? Oh, it was eaten by Phoebe Bridgers. I'm gonna keep an eye on her. I got to go back and listen to the rest of her catalog. I've listened to like half of the first, or I'm sorry, the second album she put out, which is called Stranger in the Alps. Um, but yeah, like I said, overall, I encourage it. If encourage a listen if you like alternative, almost indie, slow, methodical, Death Cab for Cutie kind of soft pop. I guess I don't know. It's kind of a hard thing to classify.
Soft pop.
Soft pop. So
It's a soft pop.
I have one other movie, but I'm not going to talk about it just for the sake of time. I will go into that next week.
You gonna
I
you gonna
actually just
spoilers? What's the movie?
the movie is called The Kid Detective. You might like it. I don't know for sure, but you might like it. It's on Amazon. It's a rental. It's $5, $5 or $6. So it might be something you might want to check out. But we'll talk.
9.99.
I'll to buy. I'm sure it's not that much to rent.
Oh,
I
I
just
didn't
rent.
look at it. I'm just.
No, I
For...
literally just finished watching it right before we got on here.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to hurry up and finish it so I could talk about it on this podcast, but I want to give a little more time to it than try to rush through it. So I don't know that I'm going to go into spoilers, but unless you watch it. So yeah. Anything else been entertaining you, John?
Nope. Not the cats, that's for sure.
Well, good. Hit us with a little bit of that knowledge, John.
I thought,
I'll give you a second to think. This has been the Nobody Entertainment Podcast, and if memory serves, I believe it was actually episode 26 of the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. I think that we're going to have a special guest next week to talk about the world's end with us, but we'll see if that happens. She's flaked on us for 2 weeks now. Spoiler alerts, it's Michelle Obama. Um, it's not. So with that, and I know you didn't think about it, so I'm going to buffer here for just a
oh,
second,
I've
John,
got
because
something already. I
you
already
hit
know.
us with a little bit of that knowledge that you so graciously carry.
Well, I mean, like, these are just things that you have to take into consideration. Don't have fancy furniture if you've got felines. That's all there is to it.
Have a good week, everybody.